David, Stephen, Ben Wu, you still have your hands up. I'm going to go to David. David,
Hi.
Yep.
Hi. Quick question. First of all, have you heard anything about being able to detox the glyphosate using infrared sauna? Secondly, are you familiar with the efforts here in Tacoma Park, Maryland, where they were able to ban glyphosate on lawn care, and how you may want to use that as model law for other areas of the country? If not, you may want to look into that. It's also the county government itself banned glyphosate from lawn care. And then finally, I was wondering if you all considered or are working with environmental groups like NRDC or Sierra Club.
So it was ban glyphosate, NRDC, and the first one was what?
The infrared sauna.
Infrared, okay. So in the Healing from GMOs and Roundup, I did actually hear from Lee Cowden and Dietrich Klinghardt. They both suggested an infrared sauna as a part of the detox. And they had different protocols and they weren't always the exact same, but yes. And NRDC and Sierra Club, I was on the Sierra Club Genetic Engineering Committee more than a decade ago for a number of years, but GMOs have not been much in their focus. And I don't think NRDC has been focused on them at all. Most of the major nonprofits just don't look at GMOs. So
I'm surprised because it affects the animals, in particular with NRDC. You may want to approach NRDC and see if they might help you or work with you. They've done it with other organizations.
Thank you. I know WWF, they're not necessarily against GMOs. In fact, they had the roundtable on sustainable soy, and they allowed GMO soy to be considered sustainable. And I sat with someone there in DC, and they came out, they're not convinced that GMOs are a problem. And I was willing to give them all sorts of science, and may have at the time, but some people don't really want to be convinced. At rounduprisks.com, which is one of our websites, we explain how people have gotten together to ban glyphosate in their cities or counties. Beyond Pesticides has done that. Moms Across America has done that. Toxin-free cities have done that. It's something that's happened in dozens and dozens of places now, and the results are when they have the proper alternative to glyphosate, it actually can save them money, and the lawns look better and all that, because they build up the biology of the soil and they don't destroy the microbiome. Roundup kills the microbiome, not just in the gut, but also in the soil, and it's not a good thing for the environment. Okay, Bin Wu, you still have your hand up.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have one question. Thank you very much. The great talk today. Usually, how many meal should people eat to decrease the disease? Is it 3 days, 1 day is 3 meal, or just 2 meal and just 1 meal?
How many meals does it take to decrease the disease? It's interesting. I was traveling and speaking about GMOs for many, many years, and people would come up to me and say, I can tell when I eat a GMO. And I'm a little embarrassed to say that I didn't believe them, because I was expecting it to be like just slight changes in statistics of disease that we would see over time. I wasn't expecting it to be something that was so overt. And I started speaking on GMOs in 1996 and writing about it. And then 20 years later, or 10 years later, in 2006, I started speaking to the medical community. And for the American Association of Environmental Medicine, I was going back each year because they would focus on a different disease each year. And I'd say all the information about GMOs and inflammation and allergies and cancer and this. So I would pull all the research together and speak about it so they all knew the risks of GMOs for that particular disease. And I didn't realize it, but these doctors were starting to prescribe non-GMO diets to their patients. So I went back in 2009 with a video camera, and I interviewed them, and they were telling me, he said, yeah, people are getting better. And an allergist said, my patients will react more to GMOs than the non-GMOs. And Emily Widner, doctor from Chicago, said to me, I put all my patients on a non-GMO diet, they all get better. And I'm like, what percentage? She says, I told you all right, 98%. I said, how many patients have you put on a non-GMO diet? She took about a minute and she was thinking, I was watching her thinking. And she said, 5,000. And I was like, whoa. So I said, can I go to your office and interview some of the patients? She said, sure. And I've talked to one doctor who had 9,000 patients. So Emily, I asked Emily, what's the typical improvement? She says, well, you put them on a new diet and anxiety and depression can get better right away. Asthma and allergies, 3 to 7 days. Digestive disorders, it may take up to 2 months, but then you may have to rebuild it over 2 years. So that was her experience. But I looked at her protocol, and she was putting people not only on organic food, but she was reducing the processed food. So they were using more ingredients. So it's hard to determine whether it was the GMO or the Roundup or the processed and the other stuff. But at the same time, I was going to some farmers and saying, and they were putting their pigs and their cows on non-GMO feed. And very soon they were seeing a change. One pig farmer, within 3 days, he saw changes that the pigs were acting like they did 14 years ago before they started feeding them GMO-based feed. And they were active and energetic instead of just lying down all the time. He had to constantly, during those 14 years, inject them because they were always getting diseases. They were a mess. And he didn't think it was the GMOs, but as soon as he put them on non-GMO diet, they started getting better. There's another pig farmer from Denmark. He said he put his pigs on non-GMO soy. 2 days later, the farmhand came up to him and said, you changed the feed. He said, uh-oh, what happened? He said, no more diarrhea. In 2 days. Before that, they had diarrhea that was so bad they could kill a lot of the piglets. They couldn't figure out how to get rid of it. It was the soy. Now, some people are more sensitive than others. There's a family that had their own chickens. They had eggs every day. One day, the mother and the daughter had anaphylactic allergic reactions and were rushed to the hospital. The father called the feed supplier, said, did you change the feed of the chickens? And he said, yeah, couldn't get any non-GMO, so I gave you conventional. And it just took, that one experience. So some people are very sensitive. At the movie Secret Ingredients, there's some doctors that tell about patients that switch to organic and their autoimmune disease symptoms go away or their joint pain goes away. And then they cheat on their diet. Sometimes it's one meal, sometimes it's a weekend, sometimes they just get off the diet. And the symptoms return. So the answer, actually, Binwoo, is it depends. Some people are more sensitive. Some people are completely insensitive. They're not going to tell the difference whether they're with organic or not. And we don't know whether it's actually causing problems, but they're not noticing anything.